This is Musical Talk.
Musical Talk.
The UK's independent musical theatre podcast.
Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Musical Talk. My name is Nick Hudson. We have a very, very special episode for you today. We are going to be interviewing the star of Doogie Howser MD, the star of How I Met Your Mother, a star of The Smurfs, Starship Troopers, The Muppet Movie, Howard and Kumar, Dr. Horrible's Sing-Along Blog, the Emmy Awards, the Tony Awards. This is our interview that Catherine and I did with Neil Patrick Harris.
Musical Talk.
I'm joined here by a two-time Emmy Award winner, the host of the Tony Awards and the Emmy Awards, a singer, an actor, a dancer, a magician, a producer, a director, a circus performer, a voiceover artist, a theme park fan, and, depending what publications you read in England, an Olympian. I'm joined here by Mr. Neil Patrick Harris. Hello, Neil.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to have you on the show, and I'm here with my friend Catherine. Say hello, Catherine.
Hello, Catherine.
I got to say that was quite an introduction. I don't know if I can live up to this podcast.
I think you live up to it very well.
I'll do my best.
You and I are sort of kindred spirits in a way, aren't we, Neil? Because you're, dare I say it, to add to your list of credits, you're also a big fan of me.
I'm a monster fan of you, and I'm not sure if the feeling is mutual.
Oh, it certainly is. You actually listen to
You're a fan of yourself?
Sometimes. You actually listen to some of my theme park stuff, don't you?
I do, in so much as the other podcasts that I listen to, you're a frequent contributor to.
Yes, the lovely Season Pass podcast. And
Indeed.
You and I have three interests, I think, in life: magic, musical theatre, and theme parks. So we're going to start talking about that. But tell us, how did you get into the entertainment industry, Neil?
I am from a small town in New Mexico, a landlocked state filled with cowboys, and I was just sort of an extroverty little kid that sang in the church choir instead of played football, and started being a part of like the little local community theater. And my parents were both attorneys at the time and very musical as well, and so music was in our life. And my dad played the guitar, and my mom played the flute, and so we were just kind of a musical family. So singing was kind of my thing. I was in the band, and then when I was about to go into high school, some teachers of mine, my choral teacher and band teacher, and this is in a tiny, tiny ski resort town in New Mexico, they thought that I should go to some kind of performing arts high school, which my parents thought was kind of ridiculous because it was hours away and akin to military school or something. So they weren't into that, but they said they agreed to go to a 1-week theater camp at one of the state universities, New Mexico State University. And I was like the youngest kid able to get in, just met the deadline, and went for a week. It was amazing. You got to be in the dorms and play theater games and do writing seminars. It was really great. And the guy who was in charge of it is a relatively famous playwright named Mark Medoff. Mark wrote Children of a Lesser God, amongst others. And he, as it turns out, unbeknownst to any of us, had this movie for Warner Brothers that he had written called Clara's Heart. It was a Whoopi Goldberg vehicle, and the other lead in the movie was a very waspy white kid in Maryland with his parents, and she's the maid to them as a family, and the movie is their relationship. And they were looking for an unknown-ish child actor to play that part. And so I got to be seen by Mark just in the context of this theater camp. And so he thought I would be maybe good for the movie. He didn't tell me this. He'd only told my parents this at the last day when all of the parents got to come and see us do little showcases and whatnot. My parents thought he was full of crap and that he was just like selling us a song. And so they said, yeah, sure, man, send us a script from Hollywood or whatever. And he did, and I ended up auditioning for that movie and getting cast in that movie. And then from that I got an agent, obviously, in order to, complete my deal in the movie. And then once you've been cast in a lead movie for Warner Brothers opposite Whoopi Goldberg, you get to work a little more. And that was when I was, I think, 12, 13. And then from that point on, I've worked pretty handily all the way through. I'm 39 now. That's my start in a nutshell.
You sort of defied the Hollywood rule of going beyond the child starlet, haven't you?
I suppose, yeah. Yeah, I still like to pretend like I'm a child, and that I'll eventually, get a drug addiction and punch a paparazzi. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. Other
interests in life, as we've mentioned, are magic and musical theatre, and theme parks, of course. In a way, they're all interpolated, aren't they?
They are. I'm a big fan of suspension of disbelief. I'm even bigger fan of that feeling when it's happening to you live as opposed to in your living room. So yeah, certainly theme parks, part of the joy of that is, for me anyway, is entering the main area and looking around and the music and the parades and seeing the queue lines and like getting sort of lost in an immersive way into an experience that is not really happening, but that actually is kind of really happening. So we would take a yearly trip to Disneyland, which was the closest enormous theme park to us in New Mexico, and that really does set the standard, I think, for level of quality and detail all across the board. We would hit Knott's Berry Farm too, and Magic Mountain, but those seemed like they were more for a specific agenda, whereas it seems to me the Disney gang just really does it right. So yes, and then they use magical elements within their rides and queuing systems and forced perspective building and all kinds of things.
Because we have a ride here at Blackpool Pleasure Beach called Carnesky's Ghost Train, which I think would interest you greatly. The illusions are by a friend of ours called Paul Keeve, whom we'll talk about later. But he is...
Nice, I know Paul Keeve, he's great.
He's done this thing called Carnesky's Ghost Train, and it's immersive theatre, a ghost train, and a story and a play at the same time. Now, you're really a huge supporter of immersive theatre, aren't you?
I am. I think right now it's the new black. I think people just get tired of paying top dollar to sit in one space and watch something, and groups like Punch Drunk and Shunt, and we have a company called Accomplice, like Sleep No More. All of that is remarkable. It makes a theatrical experience almost a once-in-a-lifetime experience, even though it happens nightly. This ghost thing. Now, wait, where is it?
It's at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and I'm sure you know about Blackpool Pleasure Beach.
No, that was my nickname in prison. But I don't know anything about it as a theme park.
It's just where you go for sort of ice cream and to get sand in your sandwiches and to really suffer a British summertime.
But it's famous for having one of the oldest wooden coasters in the world. A very early Big Dipper. There is one of the. What are the horse things called that you go on? There's one
carousel.
of the. No, not a carousel. That when you have two horses on a track. Do you know the thing I mean, Neil?
Oh, where you're sort of racing against each other.
Yeah, there's one of two in the world there. I think it has a couple of horror mazes, year-round things. I know there's a dungeon there, very similar to the London Dungeon and Madame Tussauds and all that kind of stuff. So,
but tell me about this attraction.
I haven't been on it, so you'll have to ask Paul Keeve about it, because I'm sure he'll tell you more about it than I can. Madame Carnesky is a burlesque artist, so she puts elements of that into the ride or show, or whatever you want to call it, and there is lots of Pepper's ghost illusions, so there's people disappearing. I think at one point a lady gets eaten by birds. It all sounds jolly fun for a trip to the seaside.
Yes, indeed. I must go.
I think you can go. I think there's a website with lots of videos on it, but it's a year-round attraction. It used to tour the UK, but now it's permanently at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. So I'd love to go on it too. So I think we should certainly go.
Nice. It's a date.
For those of us that don't know about Accomplice, that it's in partnership in London with the Menier Chocolate Factory, isn't it?
It is, yeah. My producing partner on that, Tom Solomon, and his sister Betsy really came up with the idea in New York, And I stumbled upon it randomly, looking at a little card that was a stack of cards at a restaurant. And it was sort of like Michael Douglas's The Game. It was this, intrigue, adventure, murder, mystery kind of experience, and that's all we're going to tell you. And if you buy a ticket and give us your cell phone number, then that's all you need to know. And I thought, well, that's very bizarre, and I'm intrigued. So I did it, and sure enough, the day before, I get a call from someone in character demanding, that this is some sort of gangster person saying he's not sure how I got this number, but here's the details. Go to this place, and it's a pier, and go by this boat and into a place, and don't be late, and throw the phone in the river. And so our group went, and it's a small group, 10 or 12 people, and sure enough, there's this mobster guy, and we're trying to be covert, and he moves us around the corner, tells us a story, gives us a dossier, and is out. And then for the next 3 hours, we were having to figure out locations based on clues, figure out the situation at hand and what we were supposed to do. People that we didn't have any idea were part of it were actors in part of it. People that we assumed were not. And it really sort of twisted the way that you viewed your surroundings, because you really had no idea who was in the show and who wasn't as you were walking through actual parts of New York. It was just kind of amazing. So I met Tom after the show and was just kind of gobsmacked by the whole premise and had so many questions. How do you write something like that? How do you control stuff, in case people get lost or whatnot? And he's a very smart guy, a good friend now. And so since then, we've opened Accomplice the Village, which is also in New York, Accomplice Los Angeles, and Accomplice London, which was through my relationship with David Babani and the Meunier Chocolate Factory. I did a play, John...
Well, you did Tick, Tick, Boom now, didn't you, by Jonathan Larson?
Larson, yes, you'd think I'd know him. I did a Jonathan Larson one-man-ish show called Tick, Tick, Boom there in, 10, 11 years ago. And like Mr. Babani's knowledge of the area and his sort of ability to get things done on a shoestring budget with still attention to quality. So that's running currently, I think. It's running through the summer, so I'm not sure. We're already getting late into it on the weekends, and then we have the LA one running on Saturdays here. I just think, again, it's a really cool idea. I'd like to open more of them. I think Accomplice Vegas would be really cool. There's some other towns where you want to go and see something, experience something that seems like it's only happening for you in just one time. In the New York one and in the LA one, it's kind of exciting to walk around an area that you think you know, but then you're entering into real-world locations and restaurants, say, or bars or dungeons or whatnot, and you had no idea that those were there. So you're kind of getting to participate in a story, getting to solve clues akin to a scavenger hunt, but also learning about an area of the town in a way that you hadn't learned about it before. So it's multi-purpose and dare I say, awesome.
You should do one in London to be another one in London to coincide with the Jack the Ripper walking tour.
We've thought about opening a second one in London. It's tricky. It's a lot of work because you have to come up with puzzles that are new. You have to come up with a story that's unique, that's not too complicated. Again, you have to come up with puzzles that are complicated enough that they're hard to solve but not unsolvable, because there's groups that are doing it every hour, potentially every half hour. A new group is going through. It's not a race, but you want to be able to keep things moving, but you don't want to dumb it down so much that you're just kind of easily solving something so that you can move to the next step. The actors, in turn, in the different locations are communicating with each other to, when one group leaves, then they'll text or call with information about them to the following group. So it's a very interesting sort of escalator, moving track of people that's coming through. Because of that, there's a lot of moving parts, and
it does beg the question. Disney are starting to do it with things like their trader card things in the parks, but surely they could do one that's more human-led, do you think?
Well, Disney's been very interested in immersive experience, I think more so now than ever. And we've had some actual nice communication with them about future things, and I think that's a smart avenue for them to pursue, whether it be on a cruise ship of theirs, whether it be on in a theme park property itself, or whether it be off-site and a entirely separate place, to have an experience like that with their stamp of approval, I think is intriguing, certainly to them, I would guess, and also I'm sure that fans of their brand would be interested in stuff like that too. But yeah, you could only go to those parks so many times and see the same things over and over. There's something wonderful about that. I do it every year. Go to Florida and to Disney World and read the story of Jesus at the candlelight processional. But, you want to see the new stuff and you want to experience new things. So the trading card stuff, I thought was a great idea. Is that sort of what you're referring to? There's another one that's there where you get some sort of decoder thing, and then you go around Epcot, and you can go up to certain boards, and then you have to look at where you are and punch in something, and then it opens up an animatronic thing, which reveals you to go to the next place. It's quite phenomenal.
I think you're talking about the Kim Possible thing, aren't you?
Yes, exactly, Kim Possible.
With your communicator.
You know way more than I do. You should do this professionally.
I want to tell you, on Sunday I went to a Muppet movie marathon. I very happily sat through all 7 Muppet movies.
Did you really?
I did, yes. I want to talk to you about the final Muppet movie because you have a cameo in that. My reading of that movie is that Walter represents Walt Disney. Is that true, do you think?
Oh, wow. That's a really interesting hypothesis. I want to, I'm real close with Jason Segel. Obviously, we're on How I Met Your Mother together, and I thought I was the biggest Jim Henson Muppet fan in existence, only to meet Jason and find out that he and his love for Henson runs even deeper than my own. He's also a prolific writer and makes movies, so he all of a sudden says, I think I'm going to be writing, producing, and starring in a new Muppet movie. I said, shut up, are you serious? Why do you do this? Why do you beat me at everything always? And so he did, but I don't know. I didn't think that it was that hidden in message. But I see where you're going with it. That's an interesting conceit. What did you think of the movie? You liked it?
I loved it. I think it was more for the fans than it was for the general public. But then again, most of the general public are fans because, and it was more of a nostalgia trip, I think. But yeah. It was still brilliant, and to have the wonderful Jim Parsons in it as well, I just fell on the floor laughing at that point. The whole audience cheered.
Yeah. What I love about the movie in tone is that it really tries to reboot the brand, which a lot of people, I think, feel had gotten a little stale or stagnant because they hadn't come out with a lot of new content. I'm doing a bunch of web shorts for the Nerdist channel on YouTube called Neil's Puppet Dreams, and I've teamed up with the Henson puppets, the Henson alternative puppets, actually, Brian Henson's gang, and it's going to be a series of shorts that are all my dreams. The hypothesis being, I used hypothesis twice. I don't know why that's my word of the day. My big hypothesis being that I sleep a lot, and when I dream in puppets. So every episode will start with me just saying that. I'll be at dinner with David, and I'll say, "Oh, hi, I'm Neil. I sleep a lot, and when I dream in puppets." And then I'll just double over into my soup and fall dead asleep, and then the whole episode will be the dream that I'm having involving puppets, and we're going to film those soon. I think at the end of this month we're going to have 8 or 9 of them, of all varying types. It should be really fun. So I get to actually work with a bunch of puppets at the Jim Henson Studios in LA, and hopefully they'll be viral and clever. So
stupid question, I know, but what did you think of Avenue Q?
Avenue Q blew my mind. I saw it off-Broadway at the Vineyard Theater when it was first... Vineyard, maybe Union Square? No, I think it was the Vineyard Theater when it was first happening. And no one had even conceived that Muppets could, or that puppets could be so dark and blue and curse and be into porn and want to go on dates and be like regular people. And I just was so taken with that dynamic of Sesame Street, but now Sesame Street for grown-ups who have to learn about more things than sharing and cooperation. Loved the songs, wanted to be a part of it, wanted to be in it, still do. Still sing it in the car, holding one hand to the wheel and the other hand like I'm operating a puppet.
Apparently it's coming back to London for Christmas, so I can't wait to see it again, because I think it's a wonderful show. But for me, it always begs the question, and I know Disney could do this, put Muppets on Broadway.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm surprised they don't do it. I'm surprised as well. You know, the show I love that's also very similar to Avenue Q is the Finding Nemo live.
Yes.
That they do at the Animal Kingdom the Animal Kingdom theme park in Florida. Have you seen it?
I haven't, no, but I've heard stuff from it, and of course it's written by Robert Lopez and his wife, who did, Robert Lopez did Avenue Q, so there's certainly...
Exactly right, and it is so good. I'm not kidding. It used to be in it's in the theater where Tarzan Rocks used to play, and that show was less good. It was sort of like, you know, a cast of ensemble people that would sing popular songs, and then Tarzan would come out and they'd sort of sing popular songs together.
Sounds dreadful.
But this is a true, like, mini musical with giant puppets, not unlike the Julie Taymor world, and kind of like Avenue Q. It's sort of a mix between the two. It's about 40 minutes long, and I cry every time I see it. The songs are so good. The themes are great. It's fantastic. Kids are riveted. Adults are loving it, and it's great. And I wonder the same thing. Why in the world don't they take that to New York and do it 6 times a day during the day on Broadway and, you know, charge a reasonable amount, but not
a fortune,
$50, and then spit people out to the gift shop. Seems like win-win.
I do want to say that I loved the Aladdin in Disney's California Adventure. I think that's...
I hated it.
Did you really?
I did.
Ooh.
I did. I
What did
didn't
you
like
hate
it.
about
I
it?
did. I feel like there's an opportunity with the magic to really, like, kill it, you know? And it was directed by an opera director lady, and I just thought it was not so strong. And I'll tell you, here's the perfect example of why I didn't like that one. So Aladdin sings his big song, one dum, ahead of the headline, one dum, da da dum. Then at the end, he runs off stage left, and then another stunt Aladdin is on wires, and he does comes from stage left, and they lift him up, and he goes flying around, and he goes all the way up in a big giant leap or whatever, and he drops off stage right. And then they have the non-stunt Aladdin enter and take his applause cue from stage left again. Well, have you seen the YouTube video where the magic carpet sort of stops in the middle?
I haven't, no, but you'll have to show it to me sometime.
Yeah, it's fun. It just stops, and then in true sort of Disney theme park fashion, the lights just kind of dim out, and then, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for enjoying Aladdin. Please exit to the side of the building. And then the poor Aladdin and Jasmine are just kind of sitting there for ages.
I want to talk to you about an attraction we mentioned previously. And the reason I bring this up is because you've mentioned on coasterradio.com that you've been to this attraction. I want you to share your thoughts of the London Dungeon to me.
London Dungeon. Well, I was there when I was doing Tick Tick Boom, so it had to have been 7 years ago. Yeah, that's right, 7 years ago. So yes, it's much more complete now, right? There's rides and stuff inside of it. I loved it. I thought it was kitschy and fun. You know, I enjoyed the sort of light techniques, and the sound was kind of all around you, and it was not unlike a lot of the London tours where someone sort of leading you through on foot to the next room, and then in 1724, this lady was dismembered on the side of the road, and then the lights change, and you hear footsteps, and then a scream, and then you look to your left, and now it's the pavement looks like blood. You know, that kind of stuff. So now I hear it's way more exciting.
Yeah, they have a boat ride now. There's a drop ride. There's the world's first 5D ride, which is marketing rubbish. But the whole attraction is moving, Neil. That they're closing and they're moving to opposite the London Eye.
When you said moving, I thought you meant like it was on moving.
No.
Right on like an elevator.
No, they're picking up and they're moving it to a much, much larger space. So it'll be interesting to see what that holds.
Wait a second. That's not a real dungeon?
Sadly not, Neil, but apparently it did used to be a child's orphanage.
Oh, that's creepier.
many years ago, but they're moving it to the old county hall, which is on the River Thames. So maybe that has more of a dark
Then
history.
it just seems like you and I should open up the child orphanage ride.
I'm up for that. Now, Catherine next to me is a circus performer, Neil. So I want you to tell her and us the story about when you did some tightrope walking.
Oh, fantastic! Well, wait, what circus arts do you perform?
I'm a fire eater. I do aerial hoop. I walk on broken glass. I've done bits of magic illusions that are kind of more about the way they're performed rather than how wonderful they actually are. But I also used to produce an immersive. I had a theatre company that did immersive theatre, so I never knew that you had that interest, which is quite exciting because I love Punch Drunk.
I love it all.
Shunt and all those people as well.
I found that there's a place in LA in Woodland Hills, sort of nearish where I live, that does trapeze classes. Richie Gauna of the Flying Gaunas has a big giant trap rig in his backyard. So I thought, no way, you can actually just pay money and go swing on the trapeze.
Yeah, well, there's one
and not have to be in Circus at the Stars.
Did you
and
go?
So I went, met him, did the trapeze. He also has a low tightrope there, a big proper trampoline, Russian swing, silk stuff, bungee cords, and so I just had spent a lot of time learning that, learning the skills, and loved it.
Yeah.
And then, yes, recently got to show off a bit. I juggle and do magic and stuff, so I felt like I could learn all of that, and it would fit in my skill set. And there's a thing called Absinthe, which is at Caesar's Palace in Vegas,
right,
in the Spiegel tent, which is now not a proper Spiegel tent because the winds almost blew it down. It's a steel-framed tent, but it's hilarious, and was from a show that had been touring around, I think, New York for a while as well. The MC is a guy named Gazillionaire, and his girlfriend are sort of the comedy, and it's very dark, sense of humor, hilarious, almost Don Rickles, offensive, and a small little audience around a tiny little stage in the middle with unbelievable acts, contortion, and I think when we saw it, there was the roller skating pair, where
I've seen them, yeah. They came down to Camden.
And, flipping around and attached to his mouth.
Right.
And then they had a tightrope, and so at the end of it, I think they knew that I liked that stuff and wanted a photo op, so after the audience left, they asked if I wanted to do the tightrope thing, and I said sure, and I think they were just expecting me to panic and whatever, but I was very into it. So, yeah, I walked across, he walked across with me on his shoulders, and that was cool, and then they lowered it down to about 4 feet off the ground, and I got to walk around on my own. That's a hard skill.
Yeah, I did a couple of classes in it. I didn't really take to it. It was kind of like 3 feet off the ground, and it was still a bit like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, because you can look so cool, and then the moment that you lose your balance, then you look like a flailing duck. You look so graceful, and you're like,
it's like a sudden downfall.
Yeah, there's nothing kind of
coolness.
graceful about the bad parts of the tightrope.
But Kat has actually made the ultimate move. She's in London right now, but she actually moved to LA back in March. So hopefully she'll be able to go and check out all these things we're recommending to us, Neil.
Yeah, for sure. There's 2 great ones. Richie's place is great. I'll give you all the information, or my information at least, and then when you get here you can see it. Or there's a great place called Cirque School LA that's
I heard of that
they
one.
teach more. They're an indoor school, and they teach more.
That's Hollywood Boulevard, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
They teach more single trap stuff or silk stuff. I've been taking. I should take it more often, but a whole class that's just on handstands, hand balancing.
Oh, hand balancing.
And my goal is to have the kind of body and flexibility and strength to stand perfectly still and like every single Cirque du Soleil performer I've ever seen. Slowly bend over, put my hands on the ground, and then slowly lift up to a handstand. You know what I'm talking about? Not the I'm 10 years old and I go like hop, and then you kick up to a handstand. I mean like that super slow, I got my shit together handstand. So that's my new goal.
I was thinking when I learned to glass walk, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could walk on my hands and be like, look, I can walk on the glass, but not only this, I can do a handstand and walk on it on my hands. And I figured out I couldn't even hold it. So walking on my hands just on normal floor became impossible.
That would be hard because you'd have to really learn how to do a handstand on one hand, right? Because you have to, your steps on glass walking have to be real slow and deliberate. You can't just like clump your way through it. I guess you could once.
Can I, a couple of weeks ago...
Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry, you're
Sorry.
here. Hi.
Circus talk. I was wondering, Neil, if you wanted to hear about the recent Darren Brown show that I saw in London.
Svengali?
Yes.
Tell me about it. I was in London for 2 days. I was filming the Smurfs sequel in Paris this summer, and I had like 3 days off. I took the speedy train down and hung out with David Babani and Andy Nyman, and Darren wasn't there. It was the same day randomly as Gay Pride. So whenever that was like the weekend before Svengali was supposed to open, and I was going to try and come back up to see it. I was very excited. I've never seen any of Darren's shows live. I'm a friend, we're friends, and I just think the world of him. He's the loveliest gentleman. He's the coolest thinker, and his shows are so theatrical and awesome. And I've only seen them on video, and I've loved every single one of them. So tell me about it.
I've seen Darren Brown live about 4 or 5 times, and every time I see it, I'm further convinced that he is, no offence, Neil, the greatest showman on the face of the earth.
It's most remarkable.
Just how one person is able to control this stage for 2.5 hours, and it must be mentally exhausting. And I sit there thinking, how the heck do you prepare for something like this? Because you can't rehearse. The audience are like your acting partner. So I just do you know anything about his process, Neil?
I do, actually. I know a fair amount about his process, and I think what makes Darren so remarkable is that a lot of that you speak of is well thought out and planned, whereas in the audience you're sitting thinking, there are 5,000 variables. That line of thinking is intentional. I don't want to give away any of his stuff, nor would I ever, but the way they think everything through is kind of extraordinary. You think he should be in charge of wars and things,
or be prime minister or something.
Tell me a little bit about Svengali as a concept. Like, what makes it different from his other shows? Did he angle more towards straight up mentalism? Was it? I haven't heard anything about it.
Well, the last thing Darren said was, "Don't tell anyone about this show."
Oh, great.
But as it's closed now, I think I'm fairly safe to, he's not going to strike me down. Svengali is, as you might know, in Darren's show, it is a doll that is able to, it's an automaton, and it's able to pick numbers out and letters on a chart. So right. Darren would do things like he gets someone to write down on a piece of paper the name of someone that died, and Svengali would spell that name out. So obviously he's blending mechanical illusionary, and Paul Key was involved in this show, with mentalism. So, I mean, the set was wonderful. It was like the biggest steampunk set you've ever seen in your life, and it had electronic generators that would pump up on the stage, and Darren was sort of flying around the proscenium arch at one point because the balloon got stuck that had something in it that was the answer to the big trick, and lots of number tricks, and
it's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be Darren Brown on Broadway.
I like the fact, to be honest, that he hasn't buggered off to America, because he's so good. He's that talented, but he's still firmly set in his roots in England, which we love. So I'm afraid you'll have to come to London next summer to see one of his shows. Yes,
I'm afraid too. And do you think he'd be upset if I just opened Darren Brown on Broadway and just as Darren Brown, it was me?
Well, see, I was surprised when I went to America that no one really that I spoke to had heard of Darren Brown. I was raving about him and going on about his stuff, and everyone was like, "Who's that?" And they sort of started mentioning other people. I was like, "Really? Is he a huge thing over there?" Or
no, not at all. David Blaine is the guy.
Have you heard though of Dynamo, Neil?
I'm just hearing about Dynamo, and I read a thing in one of the UK papers about him, and then I talked to Andy Nyman about him because I'm very jaded. I'm the president of the Magic Castle here in LA, and so my knowledge of magic is strong and also kind of jaded.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always wondering what these young whippersnapper guys are up to, and if they're legit or if they're just trying to ride the coattails of people before them. And Andy Nyman actually knows Dynamo and has worked with him and gave him his stamp of approval, which means a lot to me because I'm a big Andy Nyman fan. So I'm taking him much more seriously. He's a great showman. A large part of magic is getting people to talk about you without having to pay any money to do so, because advertisement is expensive. And going all the way back to, I guess, the biggest example would be Houdini. You know, Houdini, in addition to putting up posters, which is all they could do in the towns where he was about to perform, would literally put himself in a straitjacket and rope himself up in front of the theater in order to attract 1,000 people to stand in front, watch him escape from the straitjacket. They'd open up the doors to the theater, and that's how they'd sell tickets. Well, we live in a social media world now where you can do that, but on a much grander level, and I think that's what David Blaine has done to great success. And it seems like Dynamo is kind of doing the same thing, is subtly releasing a video of him walking across the Thames and not doing it to great fanfare. At least I didn't think so. But then that video is now sneaking around and people are going, "Are you effing kidding me? How did that happen?" And then suddenly that links to another video of him walking through a glass wall at the opening of a clothing store or something like that. And so suddenly magic surrounds him, and he has a reputation of being like this great master showman without having done a fair amount of shows. And I don't mean that as a slight to him at all, but that's kind of what that's a big part of magic, is the illusion, if you will, of greatness. Darren Brown doesn't want you to talk about what happens in his show because it makes you want to see the show more.
Yeah.
And so I want to see what Dynamo ends up doing.
I do question, though, why Dynamo has done no live shows.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. But then when you watch clips of him performing, granted it's street magic, so there's a bit of fudging that is able to happen, but not a lot. And again, Andy says he's great and that he works really hard. And what you say is that was kind of my worry, was that he had come up with a couple cool things and is trying to sort of market himself off of it. But apparently not. Apparently he's got some chops to back it up. But I wonder the same thing about David Blaine. David Blaine is, our American guy here. When he sort of talks in a deep voice and he's very hypnotic. He's never done a big live show. He does live events where he'll be frozen in a block of ice or buried underground. But I've never seen him do like David Blaine on Broadway. Yeah. And I've vented about it only to be told that there's a lot of things that are actually in the works, because he's a good, talented guy himself and spends a lot of time on the art.
Now, I want to talk to you about two musicals we have playing here, and we mentioned Paul Keeve earlier. I wanted, for me, that one of the best magic shows on in the West End for the past year or so has been Ghost, the musical. Now that closed on Broadway just recently. It didn't seem to go down hugely well there. But have you heard anything about what happens on stage during Ghost, Neil?
Yes, I've heard a lot about it. There's essentially a blue room illusion that can allow someone to literally vanish right in front of you in a really kind of awesome and visual way. No, I know a lot about Ghost, and I unfortunately didn't get to see it. I was hosting the Tonys this last year. It was running, but I was also simultaneously working in Montreal on the Smurfs sequel, and had to keep flying back and forth. And in doing so, was only able to see a couple shows at a time. And so, unfortunately, those shows that I needed to see were the ones that were most nominated, that I could then come up with, monologue content for. So Ghost didn't make that cut, but I would have loved to have seen it. Apparently, backstage, it was just like 3 giant walls of LED screens. Like, that was it. And with those screens, they could do just remarkable visual feats. But you heard what happened in New York, right, with Ghost?
It closed?
Well, in addition, I think the reason that it closed, they made the unfortunate mistake of having all or most of the New York critics come to one show, a press preview a couple days before it opened, and rather than scattering them and staggering them through different shows. And that one show, the stage broke. They had to stop the show because technically something went wrong and the set had stopped working. And as I'm sure you're about to tell me, the set and the staging and the technological elements of it are kind of what you go to see. So it opened up the floodgates for all the reviewers to not only be critical of the performances, but also to lament the future of Broadway being all screens and no substance. And so I was disappointed to hear that happened for everyone involved, because I think from what I hear, if it had worked flawlessly, which 99 times out of 100 I guess it does, I think they would have lauded the same technology and said how amazing and cool it was. But the fact that it broke down for the critics was a bit of a death knell. So I feel bad for them.
Kat and I are in agreement with this. You've never seen anything like what happens on this stage, Neil. It is amazing. I've never seen so many Pepper's Ghost illusions done in one, even beats the Haunted Mansion hands down. But the illusion you mentioned earlier, and I'm going to YouTube this very heavily when I finish, to see someone fade away and dissolve in front of your eyes is one of the most amazing illusions I've ever seen in my life.
Isn't it remarkable? And the actual technology behind it is not very technological, which makes it all the more astonishing.
Another show the same creative team have, which is announced its opening on Broadway for March and is doing so well here, and Kat and I went to see it in its original production in Stratford-upon-Avon, is Matilda the Musical, also with Paul Keeve. And this has one bit in it, Neil, which will blow your mind.
Tell me.
Do you know the story or film of Matilda at all?
I do a bit, yeah, and I'm dying to see the show because Tim Minchin. I love his music and his writing, and so I'm excited to see it on that level. But no, I wasn't aware of magical stuff. What happens?
Well, at one point, a girl is picked up by her hair and flung around, and at another point, about 3 pieces of chalk fly in the air and write on the chalkboard. You have hair that changes colour. It's not full-on force magic like Ghost is, but there's still tiny bits there. But the pigtails thing, where she's flung around, is one of the most effective pieces of staging I've seen in a very, very long time. So I think that show, it's just won more Olivier Awards here than any other show in history. I think it'll hopefully do equally well on Broadway.
It must. It's sort of the next generation's Billy Elliot, it seems.
Did you ever hear of a show on Broadway called about Merlin? It was a vehicle for some illusionist in the 80s. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. It was Doug Henning had a show in the 80s. Well, first he had The Magic Show, which I think deserves to be remade and at least updated. And then I think after that they did a show called Merlin that was another Doug Henning vehicle, but instead of Doug playing a sort of hippie 70s illusionist who was, trying to make it big time, he was Merlin's apprentice. And if I'm not mistaken, Nathan Lane was in the cast of Merlin. In what part, I'm not sure, but I remember having conversations with Nathan about Merlin and its terrible demise, because it did not last very long.
I always love it when shows make the effort to include magic, and it always seems to me they should do it more. We're starting to see a lot more of it now, and especially with Disney. Beauty and the Beast was renowned for that wonderful transformation scene. And sitting there, you might know how they do it, but I always say it's the fact that they do it, which is what makes it so exciting as an audience member. I
just like the fact that you said do. I love exactly all of that. I mean, I think magic in small doses is 10 times more magical. When I saw Mary Poppins in London when I was there, and she makes a bed appear and she pulls all those things out of her satchel, and those were all done. And Beauty and the Beast as well, done by Jim Steinmeier, another great theatrical illusion designer. And it's just those little touches that, again, your suspension of disbelief just rises tenfold when you're watching something with your own eyes that's live right in front of you. When you're watching chalk float and then write stuff on a chalkboard, there's no logical reason as how that's done. And even though you could sit there and pontificate and ponder about how it could be done, the fact that it's just happening makes you revert back to when you were a kid and would love to watch those things without asking the questions. And I think it makes the rest of the experience, infinitely better.
My recent musical obsession, and I'd never really made the effort to listen to this musical until I picked it up, and I didn't know you were in it, but I listened to it and I thought, this can't be Sondheim, it's full of pop songs. I'm talking, of course, about Assassins.
Nice.
That is so not Sondheim, that show, is it?
It's certainly not sort of period Sondheim, but I love Assassins in that one of the main conceits when he was crafting it was that he wanted each song to be in the period in which the assassin lived.
Yeah.
So there would be Sousa ballad types of songs for Cholgosh, and then there would be a 80s pop love ballad when it was John Hinckley and Squeaky Fromm singing about the
Jodie
people
Foster
that they wanted to kill. One of the things that I adore about Mr. Sondheim is his ability to make you think beyond the song and sort of appreciate why notes are what they are and lyrics are what they are, and so yes, that's one of the things I was really drawn to with the musical as a structure, is that it not only humanized villains, not to make you not in their favor necessarily, but to just put sort of to put a reason behind the deed, but it also allowed you to hear music that was of the period in which they were existing, which I think was just a really clever conceit.
I'm looking forward to the immersive production of Sweeney Todd.
Oh wow, that would be great.
With live smells.
Bloody, dare I say. We're doing Assassins again for one night in October, I think, as a benefit for the roundabout on a Monday, and we've got the entire cast to agree to do it. So we're gonna all reunite 9 years later or something. And,
apparently, every of the songs that you mentioned that mimic the style, they're all based around "Hail to the Chief." Da 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 da. Whether it's the melody backwards, or it's the melody upside down, or it's the same chord pattern, or it's a chord pattern backwards, and no one else but Sondheim will ever come up with that.
He's the clever one. He may have a career in this business.
I think he might do quite well. There's a DVD of your production of Company coming out soon, isn't there?
There is. I'm happy to say. We did it for 3 nights at Lincoln Center, and it was the most terrified and ill-prepared I've ever been. We filmed it, and it went around, and they played it as if it was a live event in the theaters, which I thought was a cool idea. And then now that that's done, they're going to release it, I think, for the holiday time, October, November, as a DVD, which will be awesome.
You've been involved with Dr. Horrible, and now a lot of, Sweeney Todd was filmed as well, the concert production you did. Do you think filming musicals that often don't last or don't get produced as much, there must be a future in that, especially with things like digitaltheatre.com and lots of other stuff? I mean, surely that's the way of the future, I would hope.
It's a slippery slope, and I don't know that it's good, but I think it's inevitable. It's just too hard to sell tickets and to get people to go to the theater, and I think with the advanced technology that exists in movie theaters these days, you can have a pretty remarkable experience of a musical, and you don't have to go to New York or to London to see it. So I don't know what that actually ends up meaning. If is that the demise of theater because now people don't need to pony up $150 to see Matilda. Instead, they can just wait and pay $15 or $25 and see it a year later. Does that hurt the brand? Not sure, but I do like that people who aren't able, at least in the States, not everyone can hop on a plane and travel to New York and get a good seat to an expensive show. And so, especially in the case of Company, which we only did 3 times, it allows people in Middle America or anywhere in the world really the opportunity to experience that show. And I was a kid, as I said earlier, from tiny town New Mexico that was a very football-centric town and didn't respect the arts much at all. And had I had the chance to like see something like Company when I was younger, I think it would have encouraged me to want to continue acting as an option. So I was pleased about that. There were a few shows that they had filmed when I was younger. Into the Woods, they had done a PBS version of that, and what was that one play?
It did Sweeney Todd as well, of course, the touring production with Angela Lansbury.
That Sweeney Todd was a great thing that I got on VHS and would watch, but there was a play, I can't recall. It's a lovely conversation. But yes, I think seeing things is effective.
Especially in the area where they're meant to be, which...
House of Blue Leaves! They did a production of The House of Blue Leaves with John Mahoney and Susie Kurtz, and I remember when I was a kid watching that and thinking how awesome it would be to go to New York and to do that for a living. So,
did you see the amazing Menier production of Sunday in the Park with George with the projections?
I did. I loved it. A great idea, a great use of technology, and almost magical in its own right.
I guess one more question, but quickly before we go. What is it like to host the Tony Awards?
It's absolutely thrilling and mind-bogglingly stressful, and at the same time tremendously rewarding. As I don't want to sound like a broken record because I say this so much, but I really do like to champion the idea of people going out and getting off their couches and experiencing something live. And at least in the States, Broadway seems to be the biggest live theatrical area that you have. And so in the span of 2 or 3 hours, to be able to show millions of people what is performed nightly and to honor it in such a complete way is an absolute blessing. And then just the logistics of doing it is remarkable. You know, it's a great award show to be a part of because all of the people that are there actually work hard every single night and love being recognized for that, even if it's one quick shot of them when everyone's applauding and they're nominated. And even if they don't win, I feel like they're proud to be a part of that community. So the sense in the room is a terrific energy because they're recognizing that they're going to sell a bunch of tickets when this thing is done. And then actually to do it, to have this giant tent world that's behind the Beacon Theater, which isn't even a proper theater, it was a movie hall. So we have to create, and all the sets and all the cast and everyone for each show has to go through the same 2 big double doors, and you have this like big train behind you of like holding areas where casts are all in costume and they're all waiting to go on to perform their 3 minutes, and you get to be I get to be the P.T. Barnum of that, and say, you know, come, I'll do an opening number, I'll let you know that everything's going to be fine and we're going to have a good time, and then we're going to spend a few hours showing all of this amazing stuff that can all happen on the same stage, and which does happen 8 times a week. It's just a really great evening, and I was thrilled to do it. That being said, it only happens once. You know, you do the show and then you're done, so you spend a lot of time coming up with jokes and options and bits and intros and gags, and then you try and pull them off as best you can, and sometimes people talk too long, so you have to cut other bits. And I wanted to come up with some kind of 11 o'clock number, and so for all 3 times that I did it, I had them writing a number during the show that sort of recapped the show, because I feel like with most award shows, once the last big award is given out, then everyone just changes the channel because you go, oh, it's the producers, click. So I kind of wanted to give a reason to stay, and that's been fun to do because that forces me to learn things on the fly, and I don't know, I find it challenging and fun. It's too bad no one watches it.
You had Lin-Manuel Miranda write a rap for you. That's easy for me to say.
Yeah, he did. The second year, I was very into like doing a spoken word kind of thing, and there's kind of no one better with with rhythm than him on Broadway. He has a great love for it too. So that was great. That was a teleprompter nightmare. I just had to look at that thing and speak as fast as I could and hope I hit the rhymes the right way, and all of his rhymes are very syncopated and crazy, but that's live theater, man. That's why you go see theater. Things may go terribly wrong. The set may stop working. The Spider-Man may plummet into the orchestra pit. Or someone may move you in a way that you have never been moved before. So, you don't get that in the movie theater because an editor has already decided which eye the tear will come from.
Well, it certainly leaves me with this closing quote from the musical. We are the luckiest people in the world, and it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you, Neil. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Good luck with all your future endeavours.
Very good, and I'll see you either here in Circus World or I'll see you there, and we'll go theme park together.
Cool. Thank you very much, Neil. Lovely.
Take care, guys. Bye, up.
And here are some musical talk outtakes.
I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Because you like that idea so much.
Yeah.
Now your wheels are spinning.
I know. I'm trying to still think of what I wanted to say.
I bet you were going to go to musical theater.
I am. I do want to ask you one more favour, because I've heard through various theme park website owners and stuff that you do an impression of me.
I don't know that I do an impression of you. It's just fun to do a British accent and talk about theme parks. So I think that was all that they had. I mean, essentially, you're just a proper Brit.
Oh, thank you.
Accidentally sounds like Nick Hudson.